Hi all, I'm Ila Patil from Pune, India, one of the most beautiful country I would say in the world. I would say I'm privileged to be the first woman from India to qualify for Race Across America. Welcome to the Ohio Ram Show.
Thank you, Ella Patel from India, for that introduction. We appreciate that. Ella is the very first Indian woman to qualify for the Race Across America, and we'll be having Ella as a guest on the Ohio Ram Show on January 7th, and we look forward to visiting with her. This is a show about cycling and ultra cycling, and I am the host of the show, Lee Kreider. And this show airs 3 times a month on the 7th, the 17th, and the 27th of each month. There will be no show on the 27th of December because of the holiday season. This is show number 136. We're well into our 5th year of doing the Ohio Ram Show. And I want to thank my good friend Chuck Stiver, who went with me to Dublin, Ohio to film this show and the next show you're going to have on here. If it weren't for Chuck, I wouldn't be able to do as much as I do. He drives, he handles equipment, he operates the cameras, does a wonderful job, and more important than that, he's a very good friend and a very good companion to have with me on these ventures. We also want to thank Time Stations 41 and Time Stations 42 at Oxford and Blanchester, Ohio, time stations on the Race Across America, and we thank thee for their good work. And I know all of you who have been on the Race Across America have appreciated the work they do, as we appreciate the work that all the staff time stations across the nation do. These people do a great job. Today's show, we traveled to Dublin, Ohio last September, and there to meet Roger Foote and his wife Carolyn Waite from New Zealand. They came from New Zealand just to do the Ohio Ram Show. Well, no, that's not quite accurate. They came all the way from New Zealand to do the Ohio Ram Challenge, and while they were here, I was able to catch them and do a face-to-face interview. I'd been trying to get them on the show, and I took this opportunity while they were here in the United States to do that. And so let's just travel on to Dublin, Ohio, and meet with Roger Foote and his wife, Carolyn. Okay, I'm here today with Roger Foote from New Zealand. Where in New Zealand, Roger?
So I live in Greytown, which is just outside of the capital, Wellington.
You came all this way just to do the Ohio Ram Challenge?
Yes, I've been looking at all the possible challenges and selected Ohio as the one, and I kept getting drawn to this race and decided that's the one I would do.
Well, Roger, tell me a little about yourself.
Oh gosh, where do you start? I suppose I've got a habit of doing different types of sports and other bits and pieces. I've had hobbies where we've played football and bits and pieces as team sports, but more lately mountaineering, stuff that's more an individual focus, and of course 4 years ago moved into cycling.
You have a life outside of sports and everything. What puts food on your table?
These days I'm a project manager working in the information technology sector. So we take care of all sorts of pieces of technology that businesses want to use, although where I work tends to be mainly for government use.
How long have you gotten into ultra cycling?
Oh crikey, probably about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years, with a bit of interest. Initially it started doing the Lake Taupo Cycle Challenge, which is late November each year. And I saw these people doing multiple laps, and I thought, these are these crazy people, and why are they doing the multiple laps of the circuit? It's a 100-mile course, and they were doing it to qualify for RAM. So we found out, oh, what's this thing called RAM, and had a look and investigated, and thought, yes, that's a bit more me than trying to do 100 kilometre or 120 kilometre races, and certainly looking at the distance side certainly appealed. From there, last year I did a 2-lap of Lake Taupo, so 200 miles, and then decided that was pretty much, that's really what I get into with cycling. Plus following RAM last year, watching RAM in 2015, watching the race from afar, seeing the people race there, really stirred my interest.
Is your goal to qualify for RAM?
Yes, so the goal is to qualify. after selecting this race and some encouragement from my coach, I thought, oh well, let's get off and, as I say, turn up and do it, and see where we go from the next stage. So the intention, of course, is obviously long term to do RAM, and looking to do that in 2018.
And who is your coach?
Marco Bola, of all people. So
Why does that not surprise me?
well, I was looking for a coach earlier this year. I'd had an unfortunate accident where I didn't quite break my leg, but I couldn't ride in early January for about 6 weeks. And what appealed to me as Marco as a coach was I liked his philosophy, which was you certainly ride the best you can at any age, and always push yourself to be the best you can. There's no sort of set limit at 50 you could ride like this, or 60 you can ride like that, and so on. And certainly he also, I think, his mindset I can identify with, so that complements and can understand and work. And yeah, he's a really nice guy.
He is a very nice guy, and he just now himself moved up into another age category.
Oh well, it's all going to get to us sooner or later, isn't it?
Sooner or later. I moved up several categories since then.
Unfortunately, I'm on the cusp of moving up, so fortunately in November I'll be moving myself, but that's okay. What they say is it's better late than never.
So your goal is to do RAM in 2018, is that correct? And if you qualify here, then that'll qualify you for 2 years, I believe.
Yes. Although, if circumstances, yes, that's right, 2018.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I see you brought some crew with you here. You want to introduce her, and I'll go over and chat with her a bit.
Yes, so one of my two crew coming along with me is Carolyn Waite, and she's also knows me quite well, as in she's married to me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's convenient, isn't it?
Oh, come along. And of course I've got another crew member who's just finishing off over there called Gary, but he's over there. Come over, Carol.
Tell me about you say you were a lawyer?
Oh yes, I did that later in life, but decided I didn't like it very much. I got sick of looking after other people's problems when they kept creating more problems, But I did do the Wānanga claim to the Waitangi Tribunal in New Zealand, which was exceptionally good piece of work. Yeah.
Now that was a Aboriginal group, was it?
A Māori group, yeah. Native New Zealanders, yes, and the government had decided, as governments do when they want to get something, to praise them and say, we will make your learning institutions the same status as universities, colleges of education and polytechnics, but they didn't pay them the same amount of money per student, and that's what the claim was about. So it was very satisfying.
Now, I know that in Australia and England they talk about barristers and solicitors. Is that you use the same terminology?
We have the same system, yes. I was a barrister sole when I took the claim, but I also have been a solicitor.
So a barrister, let me get this straight, they're a person who actually tries cases in court, is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Yes, although in New Zealand you can be both. Good. A lot of the law I did was employment law, and that's when I said about people creating problems and then making them worse, both employers and employees.
So what do you think about this guy over here and his ultra cycling? Do you support this?
Absolutely, I support it 100%. I think it's great. I think people should follow their dreams and work hard and get there. I just think it's just wonderful.
So when he said, I'm thinking about racing across America, you didn't say, are you nuts?
I think I said something along those lines, yes. I didn't say it repeatedly at times until I watched it last year, which was the first time I watched it, and I was absolutely hooked. And the kids were saying, what have you done to Grandma? She's all she talks about is cycling. So,
they say the racers get no sleep, but those of us who watch the race, we don't get any either.
Get much sleep either, no. And of course he was on Dave Hussey's crew this year, so that was even more exciting because you were sort of watching it, and then when Dave got sick and you're thinking, what's happening? Because you don't know anything back home, you're miles and miles away. But I sort of know... I sort of feel I know a lot of these races, even though I've never met them.
Yeah, it's. I always say we have some of the best friends I never met.
I think that's true, yes, and they share information beautifully, which is just wonderful. I have learnt so much about nutrition, about pushing yourself to the absolute limits, about having things get in the way and then just picking yourself up and getting on. I think that's just the most magnificent trait of all the cyclists who do this. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure and nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Now, I understand that you crewed last year for Dave Hosse.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Yes. Oh.
You see, in my Ram thinking terms, that was last year, but it's 2016, right?
Yes. Best fun. I'd watched Dave in the 2015 race and had seen him come from through the pack, and I think he came through to second. And of course, never entered my mind I'd be crewing for him the next year. But it's just the way the Ultra family works, I think. Initially, when I'd started, we'd looked, talking over with Marco, we'd talked about possibility of crewing for Ram in bits and pieces, and certainly he'd recommended Dave as one of the good guys to crew for, so to speak. And initially inquiries, and I think, and big cheer for Dave really, he took on an unknown quantity from a guy that my coach said, yeah, take him on as a crew member. And coming for the crewing, it was, dare I say it, the best fun I've had for quite a long time, the best 2 weeks I've had for a long time.
You know, it can be the best 2 weeks or the worst.
It has its challenges. I think the good part for me was, well, about 4 or 5 really. Working at different odd hours was a great thing, coming from a different time zone, so I could be quite alert certainly in the early hours where other people would get tired. Meeting some of the new people, that not just the immediate crew but also people that supported the crew. So obviously working quite tight with, I was a navigator slash relief driver, so working with the other navigators and relief drivers, rotating around from a guy who's quite experienced in terms of the way the team is quite well structured, so quite a lot of experience there. So with Dex, Sean Urban, and Dave Ellsbury, who've ridden around themselves, of course,
yeah.
And plus some of the newbies, obviously, and Justin and the Keelans, Justin and Keelan Kelly. They've been with Dave quite a while and done many trips themselves. So there were 4 of us new ones in the team, and that was quite easy to fit within and work around. And you could always get advice and knew what it was up to. We had our low moments, but I wouldn't call them lows. I'd just call them, hey, that's what happens. And the group was cohesive enough to just, okay, that happens, we get on and move on. And I think the thing that taxed us totally was when Dave got ill during the ride. He'd done close to 1,000 miles, I think day 3 or day 4, and I just remember thinking he looked really good the day before, and then the next day I thought, you don't look so hot. And then of course his illness came on, and okay, that's the time you sort of pull together, okay, what are we going to do, what's our plans, wait and see. And I think that was the real part of this round challenge was, of course, we were all on edge that we'd got Dave to the emergency room, he got his medicines and bits and pieces, had his rest, and we're starting the following day. He'd, I think, got to 4th and slipped down to maybe 12th during that period, during the ride. And of course we're all keen, because he just started Wolf Pass, and that's when it hit him. And so we restarted at the bottom of Wolf Pass. We then, of course, very anxious, all waiting for him at the top, and he got there. And of course that was great. And then of course subsequent every day he got better and better and better. I remember saying to Dave as he went past, at one point, fastest on course, the average speed he was doing. And that was good. Bit of a laugh at our stops and meeting some of the people at the time stations. That was really neat too. The thing that I didn't initially believe members of my crew when they said there's elk going to bound across the road and it's going to interrupt and be careful and it could take out people, and I just didn't believe them, saying this is bollocks. There's no such thing. Deer will not. You're too civilized. You're too what do we call it? America looked to me as a hugely populated. Where's the wildlife that comes into town? And of course I'm in the follow car one night, and okay, I can't quite remember where, and between us and Dave an elk bolts past, and I go, wow, wow, that just really opened my eyes to saying, okay, they weren't having me on, they were actually being truthful. Whereas in New Zealand, we'd go into a mountain or two, which isn't very far away from outside the cities, to find our wildlife. But so that was the interesting parts, and the various stops we had. And of course we were rotating around the various cars, the RV drivers, Tommy, Fred Rose in the RV, and great company and great fun, and they indulged me, and I felt quite spoiled. So
what was the most important thing you learned that you're going to apply to your own ram on that?
I think the key part is to try and get everyone together at least once a day, and most of the races have a down period where they're going to sleep for up to maybe 2 hours off, or somewhere an hour and a half to 2 hours. Get them together, those who are awake, and say, okay, here's the plan for the upcoming hours, and then so on, and make sure everyone can get that. At times that's what we did. We got together and did that. So particularly last day before the last day for Dave, we were all together. And the other one is, everyone's really got to have a sense of humour and just not get affected. You know, stuff's going to happen. It's fine, unless someone's dead or dying. Okay, came close with someone getting sick, obviously, a rider not getting too well. It really doesn't matter. We can get over that. What's the issue? Let's just keep moving. Okay, bang. I'd say the only downside was the food, eating from service stations. I did get a bit tired of that.
I do have a question. Let's get back to your own cycling experience. What's the longest ride that you have done? And I'm thinking now getting into the areas of your recovery, sleep, and what have you.
Probably in terms of distance or hours, probably about 12. I think the 12-hour ride last year was probably the longest then. And what I've learnt is to do 1 or 2 sleep cycles afterwards if you're going to do a full sleep cycle, which is typically 90 minutes, or you could do a 90-minute power nap. For this race, for instance, I don't expect to stop, but if I do, it would only be a 20-minute stop. For me, the next stage is to build up to 1,000-mile races, hence coming down I intend to do No Country for Old Man next year.
Okay, in 2017.
In 2017. I'd love to do it this year, but it's a bit too close to this and so on, but certainly intend going to Texas to do that and do the long ride. And then, of course, the problem I face in New Zealand is there are no real long rides. I literally have to go out of New Zealand to do it. I asked a friend of mine, do you know anyone who's do you think I'm extreme when it comes to the cycling and so on? They go, well, how many other people do you know in Wellington? Now, there's about 450,000 people there that do this. And I go, I couldn't name anybody.
Yeah.
So literally, I think there's barely a dozen people maybe that do it in the whole country.
Well, thank you, Roger. It's been so nice to talk with you, and it's hard for me to fathom you coming this far, but we're certainly glad you did.
Oh, well, I think you've got to show, dare I say it, commitment, and I could stay at home and qualify. There's the 4 laps or 8 laps around Lake Taupo to do so, but I decided, well, on the other hand, it's actually better to get the wider experience and get a bit more involved and, dare I say it, meet the extended family with RAM, and that's part of the package as well. It's, you know, the race is important, but that's also the other appeal to the race is to meet lots of new people, and even from crewing for Dave this year, made a lot of friends, and it's been great.
Well, thank you a lot, Roger.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Roger and Carolyn, for meeting with me. You were very busy getting ready for the race, and yet you took time to sit down and chat with us. We appreciate that a great deal. And we want to thank all of you for watching the show. We appreciate your support on social media with your likes and pluses and shares and retweets. That all helps get the word about ultracycling out. If you're not watching the show on the website now, be sure and visit the website, see the show notes below the video. Also, you can see archives of all the previous shows. Our next show will also come from Dublin, Ohio, where we'll see some more of the people surrounding the Ohio Ram Challenge. You'll see something about the inspections that go on for bicycles and vehicles. You'll see something about the safety meetings that take place. There'll be a lot of activity around a race like this, getting ready for it, and we'll try to bring you part of that, as well as some visiting with some more people. We'll see you then in about 10 days. Goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.